What's up, everyone? It's Matt Mrozik, and this will be work in progress number 2 on the Vision 2.0 Captain America prototype. And as you can see, I have both of them together. So the one on the right is the one I was working on in work in progress for on the work in progress 1. This is the prototype. And the one on the left is my kit. And this one did go quite a bit faster because obviously once you do something the first time, you kind of learned a few things doing it the second time, it goes faster. But I did also find something out when doing the second one that I was incorrect on the first one. And I said that once the boots are on the legs, you can't put the statue into the base. So that's why I put magnets in these boots, but I was incorrect. And I'll show you why. Because when I was first trying to do it, I was trying to go straight down into the base. So I'm gonna get this one out of the way because this is the one that's got the magnets in it. Let me get this to the side real quick. So basically I'm going to do both of these at the same time kind of, and whichever one turns out the best is the one I'll turn in as the prototype because that's more important than my personal piece. So the only thing I haven't done on this one is I haven't gotten this piece back here to fit yet. I need to do this outside because my work area is a complete mess. There's dust everywhere from grinding that first one down. So this work in progress is basically going to be going over the putty work and how I pin this. So let me take this off and take the shield off. So the feet on mine are pinned. They're not magnetized. Let's get autofocus going on here. Sorry. So when I did the other one, I was like, oh, you can't put the statue on with the feet in place, but I was wrong. So what I found out is that you have to come in at an angle. So if you come in and you put the front foot down first and you lean them forward a little bit and then rock it back, it can go in with the boots attached. So I will be epoxying, even though I put magnets in this one, I will be epoxying the boots into place. Now that it has also arisen another little fitment issue, which I'll be taking care of here. And let me come down a little bit and show you. And again, this is the prototype, so these aren't production castings. So the factory will still have some adjustments to do and some work to do on the final pieces. But what happens is when that happens, you get a little gap in here because even though the boots fit on perfectly, when they're out of the base, once you put it into the base, I think what I'm gonna do is I think it's gonna create a little more work for me. I think I'm gonna go ahead and epoxy the boots onto both of these pieces. And then what I'll do is I'll shave this key down just a little bit on the inside part of the heel, or the inside part, because that'll allow it to then slide down. Because what's happening is when I put it into the base, let me get this out of the way. When I put it in the base, it wants to kick the foot out a little bit. So I'm actually gonna take all the other stuff off so I don't drop anything on accident. But I got all this magnetized really well on this one. And I'll show you the areas that need putty work. It's not too bad. Take the torso off. And, okay, so that way nothing falls off. Okay, so like right now I've got these on here and they're pinned with 1/8 inch brass rods. And when I go to clamp these and everything, it fits really good. Right now it's not, because I'm not putting a lot of pressure on it. But when I epoxy this and clamp it, the fit is really, really good. I won't have a gap. So after I do that, I think I'm gonna do that now, let those dry. But what happens is when I put the foot in, so if I lean it forward, so I come down and I kind of come in like this, put this toe down first and lean them back, you can put them in. The problem is that right now, the back key and the back foot don't line up perfectly in order for it to go in without it wanting to kick that foot out a little bit. So basically what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna grind either the key down or the hold down just a little bit on this inside edge right here, which will allow it to go down without, because right now what's wanting to do is it wants to kick the foot out. It wants to kick it out this way to get it to line up correctly, to sit in the key. So again, this is a prototype casting, and but yeah, so it can go in as one piece. So I'm going to do that now, and then we'll do. I'll show you the putty work that needs to be done on both these guys. So I'm going to break this down real quick. Like I said, it's going to create a little more masking for me in the end, but I'd rather do that now than try to do it after I've painted a good portion of this. All these pouches have been pinned and they fit very, very well. Once they get glued in, they'll never come out. So again, when I ship this to the factory, or to, I'm not sure if I'm shipping it to the factory or if I'm shipping it to the producer first. More likely to the factory, because shipping on these is not cheap. It'll be several $100s to ship it to wherever it's going. Sorry, I got the belt buckle in there. So when I ship this to the factory, basically he'll be the boots, the legs, and the torso will be all one piece. Okay. Okay, I am getting a little bit of, I thought I had it fitting in there. Here we go. I just need to clamp it. That's what it is. I can't put enough force on it with my hands. Luckily, I have a bunch of big clamps that I've purchased. So I'm going to clamp these on real quick. And basically what happens, I'll paint the pants and everything. I'll mask those off, and then I'll do the boots. Paint the boots. So I'm just going to get some of the 5-minute epoxy. And then I'll just show you the putty work on the prototype, because it's going to be the same on mine. And both, it's really weird because they both need a little different putty work in different, not basically the same areas, but like mine requires a little bit more than the prototype. And it's really on the left arm. I did do some sanding and stuff to get to fit better, and I got it pretty close. But it does need a little bit of help with some putty, and then it'll be all good to go. So it just goes to show you that a lot of times if you're a collector and you're hiring a painter to paint one of these pieces, it's very rare that it's ready to go out of the box. Even the highest quality kits sometimes will need some prep work and building, like this one does. It just is what it is. So you know, I think so I haven't seen the production castings, and I won't, because the kit that they gave me as my fee is a prototype, so I don't know what the final production casting would look like. But if I did do this much work on the kit and I was hired to do it, it would be, especially because this back piece takes so much work to fit, it would be an $800, job, in my opinion. That's probably what I would charge to do this piece. Okay. So between the pin I have in there and this epoxy, I need to get I may have mixed that too prematurely, because I need to get some alcohol ready in case this oozes out. And actually I wouldn't mind if it oozes out a little bit. It'd fill in this whatever little gap there is left. Get my clamp ready to go. Because like I always say before, the more epoxy you mix at one time, the faster it's going to kick off. So I'm just going to pour some in here. Give a good coating around everything. And the faster you can get the epoxy and whatever it is you're gluing, the better, because when it's a one big mass, it generates a lot of heat. That's what helps keep, that's kind of what will make it kick off quicker than you may want. Okay, so it's starting to warm up, I can feel it. Get it on here. so that's clamped. You can see a little bit of a, let's see. The trick is to make sure you clamp it straight. So it goes in evenly. Okay, just like that. And then I'll get some alcohol on my paper towel and wipe off the excess. And then from there, I'll just do any necessary trimming of the key to get it to fit correctly into the base. But I'd rather have this nice and solid and looking really, really good now and have to do a little bit of masking later than trying to do this after it's been painted, because you're just going to mess up paint big time. And I like to, especially on pieces like this, I like to have the epoxy ooze out a little bit, and that acts as my seam filler. So after this gets primed and painted, that epoxy will actually fill in that little bit of a gap, because there's a little bit of a gap. It's not big. It would look natural, just being as that's where the boot would go. So just like that. And I should have done this early, but I like to always kind of test clamp something first to see how to clamp it to get the right pressure in the right direction. This one's a little trickier because it's at an angle. So let me see how this needs to be clamped. So tonight I'm going to get these boots on. I'm going to do the putty work with the Aves. I'm going to show that to you here in a second. And then from there, tomorrow I'll give everything a bath and start getting things in primer. Okay. So it needs to go like that. Actually, what I'm going to do is I'm going to wait for this leg to dry, I think, first, and then double check the alignment, because I think I'm pretty sure that's where it goes. But if I don't want to epoxy this in the wrong orientation, that would be bad, because then it would never fit. So I'm going to let this dry off to the side here. And while that's doing that, I'll show you the work I'm going to do with some of the putty work. So get that out of the way. Okay, so on both of these, there's a little bit of the right arms fit very, very well. Now it is a switch out, so there is going to be a little bit of a gap. There's nothing you can do about that. There's always going to be, when you have a switch out, it's just going to be there. So I'm not real worried about that. But on the other, hold on, sorry. And these took a little sanding too. I had to go in here and I had to sand a little bit of this down. The seam, the mold line wasn't quite taken care of, so I took that down and that brought it in. So this is mine. I'm happy with that. I think that's acceptable as far as like any little bit of a gap. Same with this one. And what's more important to me is that it looks really good from the front, because when I display mine, I'll have the shield on the back. I just really like that. But the problem, and this is on both of them, is the left arm. So when you look at it from the front, it looks pretty good, but then they both have a pretty decent gap right in here, and this is on both of them. So the way we're going to fix this is pretty simple. I need some my Vaseline. I'm just going to show you one because it's the same on both. I got my safety saw for my A's. Got my sculpting tools. Let me get all this other stuff out of the way. I don't want to mix up the pieces because they are all pinned specifically to a kit. So we're going to do this. And now, since this isn't a switch out, I can do the putty work to the torso. If it was a switch out and I had gaps, I'd have to do the putty work to the actual switch out. So like if I if I had two right arms or two left arms I'm trying to get to fit, I'd have to apply the putty to the switch out and make those each custom fit this torso. But since it's just one, I'm going to do the putty work on the torso. So what you can see here is I've actually sanded away all the primer, factory primer, this yellow stuff. You need to do a little more right here because it needs, Aves won't stick to the paint or the primer. You got to have bare resin. Let me give it a little, roughen up just a little bit. Okay, so I got my Aves here. Handy dandy Aves. Clean my sculpting tools a little bit from the last time I used them. Luckily this stuff, these clean up pretty easily after the epoxy has dried. So I'll just show you this process of it, because if you follow me, you've seen this several other times, but again, this is more for my clients' information than it is for anyone else, just so they can see the work that's gone into this. Okay, so I got some Aves here. Part A, part B, don't mix them up. I don't need a lot. You know, you try to get it as equal as possible, like that. I'm almost out of gloves. I've got some of these vinyl gloves, which I don't like. I bought these on accident. I thought they were the latex gloves. These I'm not a big fan of because they don't fit tight. They're loose, but they'll work. I just put these on and mixing up Aves. Okay, so we're gonna mix this up. And they tear easily when you try to put them on. Let's clean off I did vacuum my workbench a little bit from all the grinding on that piece the other day, but my entire studio is covered in dust now. Okay, so we're gonna work this A's, get it all mixed up really well. This is actually, I'll do this. This will be enough for both of them. So I'm going to show you the putty work on the arms and then the putty work on the prototype base for that back piece of debris. Which I'll need to actually epoxy into place. And this part has been pinned also, like the other part where this comes off. There's two metal pins going from this piece into the bottom. So the A's, you want to make sure it's mixed up really good. I roll it out and I fold it and I roll it again. Okay. So now what we want to do, since we're applying the putty to the torso and not the arm, we want to make sure that these don't stick together permanently. So we're going to take our petroleum jelly and we're going to slather this stuff all over this sucker. And I always put way more than I need because you do not want these to get stuck. If they get stuck, you're screwed. You'll never get them apart. And this is the barrier that keeps it from sticking together. So I cover the whole key and everything just to be safe. And this will all get washed off later when I do my bath. So I'm not worried about it getting everywhere. Better to be safe than sorry. Okay. And even a little bit just on this outside edge, just in case I got any overflow. Okay, so that's good. Coated really, really well. Now we're going to take some of this Aves I just mixed up. And we're going to start kind of just putting it on this outside edge here where it needs to go. And even though this is magnetized, I'm going to put this in here and clamp it and let it dry overnight. So I'm putting just a bead of A's right here where my problem area is. And this is probably way more than I need, which it is. But we're going to take most of it off. Actually, I'm going to take, I don't want that much. I don't want to accidentally filling in any detail. Me having to go in there and try to get it out. So I'm going to put a smaller bead. So tonight I'll get the putty in place, and it's got to dry at least overnight. So my goal is to get the putty work done tonight and let it, get everything clamped and let it sit. Get the boots on, get those epoxied into place. And if I can get that accomplished tonight, then I'm in a good place to get these in primer pretty soon. I've got a couple other projects, as everyone knows, I got a bunch of projects in the works. So my goal is to kind of get a bunch of them in the same place so I can kind of tackle skin tones all at the same time. Okay, so now I put this on and we're gonna give it a squeeze and see. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get one of my clamps. So it's even out there, which I want. I'm going to clamp this really tight because I want this to be like, how it's supposed to be keyed in there. And again, there's going to be a little bit of when you have a switch out, and this doesn't have a switch out, I could technically glue this one into place, but I'm not going to because I want to be able to break it down for painting and stuff. Okay, so I'm having a little bit of okay, so need a little more. There. Get some alcohol. Clean that off. And just, since I took this off, do another application of my petroleum jelly. Put it back on. See, I just broke some of the, now see I'm clamping, I just broke a little bit of the detail off, so I gotta be careful. I'll have to put that back in later. Okay. All right, so now all that Aves that came out, we're gonna take that off. Like that. And then we're gonna use the safety solve and one of these where's my cups? There they are. Little safety solve and this little rounded guy here. And we're just gonna smooth it out. So now when this is dry tomorrow, this should key in perfectly now. And I got a little bit of a gap right here. So I'm gonna add just a little bit of Aves. And since I got the arm covered in petroleum jelly, it shouldn't really stick to the torso. And this is how you get something to fit damn near perfect. Okay. So a little more work than anticipated, but that's usually the case. Alina had one of those Lunchable things.
Watch you get something, Owen.
Okay. All right. So that's how that's done. So in the morning I'll take that off. Hopefully it comes off and we'll be good to go. And I'm gonna save these little pieces that broke off from me clamping. I'll glue those back on tomorrow. So there's that one. So that's got to sit. So I got to do that to the other one. I'm not going to show that again because it's the same thing on the other arm. Same process. But let me get this cleared. And by the time I'm done with this, I can probably epoxy the other boot and show you that. And I still have this Aves here mixed up, so I'm going to use that. It should be enough. Let's see if this goes. Gonna make sure I get the right heads with the right kits. Alright, sorry, just gotta clear it off and get the next one out here. Alright, so I'm gonna take him off the base. Sorry, I'm just getting stuff organized here. Alright, so this guy, this awesome piece right here that kicked my ass the other night. We're gonna get this, I'm gonna go ahead and epoxy it into place and make it one piece with the base. And when I do that, I'm gonna take it off of this part. And put some paper towels down on this so I don't get epoxy everywhere. Another thing are these little things that stick out. There's wires in them, but I'm gonna have to put some putty on them because the putty's kind of, some of it's broken off. Just, it was in packing and then just from handling. This is not gonna get epoxied, but this piece is. And I don't need a pin or anything in this. There's plenty of surface area for epoxy. That's more than enough. Get my paper towel, get my alcohol ready, and clean it. So at least this piece will get painted. This won't require any extra masking because it's all the stonework is basically broken up concrete. So it won't require any masking or anything because of this. Just give this a nice. I should have plenty of contact. All right, so now that that's in, I can actually do some gap filling while that's in there, because this isn't going to go anywhere. No squeeze out, because of all the grinding I did. But that should kick off pretty quick because of the amount of epoxy that's in there. So now what I'm going to do is take this A's that I have, this A's I already have mixed up. And even though there's primer here, I'm going to stick it down in these cracks, so I'm not worried about it. Like primer being here, because I'm going to go in here and I'm going to go push it down into these gaps. I'll make this one piece. I'm not sure what they're going to do when they ship these, if this is going to be separate. My guess is it probably will be. But for this, I'm making it one piece. I'm just pushing it down in there. Between the epoxy and this A's, this will never come apart. What are you guys whispering about down there? Must not be good. I asked you what you were whispering about, and as soon as I asked you that, you stopped whispering. All right. I'm just taking a little bit at a time, and I'm going to go through here and smooth that in a second with the safety solve, but I want to get it kind of everything packed in there roughly. Doesn't have to be real neat right now because we're going to clean it up here. You can use water too to work with this stuff. I do like the safety solve a little bit better. So now I've got some safety solve in my cup here, and I'll start smoothing out the areas I've already got filled. Getting any of the excess aves off. I also like to use Q-tips in the safety solve. You can get into great for smoothing out areas. So those A's, you're supposed to have quite a bit of working time, but I do notice that it starts to set up a little bit after a few minutes. They give you a chart of like work times. Like you have so many minutes of like soft workability, and then after so many times you can carve it, and then after 24 hours is when it's fully cured. You can sand it. It's a pretty good void right here, packing full. There we go. And then you can use that safety solve to blend out your edges to soften any. Yeah, this is gonna look good when I'm done. Okay. So for as far as putty work, that's it on these. That are the arms and this piece right here. So this video won't be that long. What am I at right now? I'm at 40 minutes. I always say it's not gonna be long. It's always an hour long. Try to keep my hours to like an hour. So I'll just show you this process. Because after this, it's just really a matter of giving it a bath and then priming. Which will be hopefully tomorrow. Oh, I gotta resculpt the tip of the wood on this one. I think it's wood. Yeah, right here, like a log. I'll do that on video too. So I'm gonna put a brass rod, stick it out, and kind of sculpt it around a brass rod. So it's got something to stick to. The Aves, that is. Yeah, this is gonna look really good after this putty work is done. It's gonna look seamless. So tomorrow I'm gonna take my piece of this outside and grind the crap out of it. I'm just gonna basically whittle that key down to nothing, and then epoxy it in and do what I'm doing here. Jabbing this to get the A's down into the little voids underneath this rock detail. So I can't get my sculpting tool in there. There we go. tip. Hopefully my head wasn't in the way there. Like this, this ape that I mixed up is already starting to get hard. Just trying to pack it down in there. This is basically it. I did show you how I was going to do that wood piece on camera. Almost done. Okay, that's looking pretty good. The only other spot is really underneath here. Again, just packing it in there. Fill that gap. Just about got it. One little spot right there. And then this has all been gapped. Yeah. Much better looking. And once it's all primed in paint, it'll look like one solid piece. Okay. So that took a little bit of time, you can see, but now there's no gap. Ta-da! This piece is going to leave separate. Just fine. That looks good. Okay, so let's... Oh, I got a little, actually, a little crack up here I need to fill in. This actually happened in shipping. This little piece of rebar here kind of got busted. I'm going to do this in my lap. You should look at my lap. Take these gloves off. This stuff isn't sticky anymore. So this little piece of rebar here kind of got stressed in shipping. I'm just going to fill it in with some Aves, and it'll be good to go. Aves is great stuff. I'll smooth it out so I won't have to do any sanding or blending. It'll just be part of the rebar. I like to dip a paper towel in the Silva set too and kind of wipe it over whatever the work I've done. It kind of helps blend everything together. Alright, so not only will it fix that crack, it'll reinforce it so it won't break again. It is great for structural integrity. Okay. And I just actually picked this piece. I didn't realize I just picked this whole base up by this piece that I'd epoxied, and it's already dried and good to go. So that's been gapped. That's been fixed. Let's fix this little piece here. And I'm going to drill a hole. I always say this, I'm not a sculptor, but I made a nose on a Nairn Hellboy. I think I can do this. Basically, I'm just going to put a piece of 1/16 brass rod in here. Like that, and I got a little tip here that broke off. That. And now I got something to put the Aves onto. I gotta get my pins out, sorry. Okay. So I'm gonna put a couple little armatures in there. Oops. there. A really small one for this guy. Just like that. And I'm going to use the apes I still have because it should still be workable. I have to mix up a little bit more, but let's see, do I have any other little pieces over here? I do, right here. So this I'll have to do a little sanding and carving to kind of replicate the wood texture, but at least I got the gist of it there. I just use some safety solve to kind of blend in the edges, and then I'll create the wood texture later after this dries with a Dremel and just kind of go in there and carve some grain. I might just use this one from, even though this isn't the prototype base, I'm gonna use this for my personal base because the other base didn't have this broken off. So it does, you know, it doesn't matter as long as it looks good in the end. Okay, so that's good. And then just the tiniest little bit. Where'd it go? Just like that. Okay. So now I got those tips back on. And once that dries, I'll just go in there with the Dremel and real lightly redo the wood texture. So that's the putty work that these need. On both of them, they need this. They both need this column worked on and that arm. So that's going to be it for this work in progress video. I'm right at an hour, which is a good point. So once this has all been dried and everything, and I give it a good bath, then they'll be ready for primer, gray primer. So yeah, so next time you see these, they'll probably be in primer. I won't videotape the process of priming. It's spraying primer. Yeah, and again, you won't see these videos until after production anyway, but at least you'll see the process that went into the prototype. If you've ordered this piece, or will have this piece in your collection, you'll get to see the steps that it took to get this done, which I think is kind of cool to see if you own a piece and you get to see the process of how it's created, from the sculpting to the printing and all that stuff. So I like to see that stuff personally, so I think it's kind of cool. Alrighty, so just gotta let that dry overnight, and we'll give it a bath and shoot some primer on it. So that's it for this video. Thanks for watching as always, and we'll catch you guys next time. Bye.